Do you have a Life Scout that is struggling to come up with the perfect Eagle project? Let's talk about it. Hey, ScouterStan. Let's talk about the perfect Eagle project. I don't think there is. And scouts, especially Life Scouts, who have worked so hard to get where they are, they want to really go out with a bang. Okay, they want a huge project and all that stuff, but we need to break it down into its basics. A lot of scouters may not know what an Eagle project is. It's a service project to show that the scout can use the skills that they've learned in scouting to actually complete a project on their own. It is a huge undertaking, and it can be confusing, it can be huge, it can be scary, it can be easy. Depends a lot on the scout. Now, you might have been asking yourself, and even the scout is asking, what is the perfect project that's out there? That's the goal. And there's certain things that they need. And as a mentor coach for your troop, you need to think about them. Now, first off, it's about community service. The project has to be for an organization or a community that is not directly connected to the Scouts unit. So they can't do anything for scouting or anything to do with the scout camp. That's one of those things. They has to be for the community or an organization, a church even, in your community. Leadership is very important with a project. When you're dealing with those hours, the Life Scout that's working on that project are probably going to get the majority of those hours. But it's very important that they show leadership to other scouts or other people in that project. Showing that leadership is critical to a good project. Sustainability or even a one-time deal. There's a lot of projects that are done that way. I've done a lot of projects. I've actually looked over a lot of project proposals. Sometimes it becomes something you've seen before, and it's purely because the project from the past has weathered poorly, and they need to rebuild it. So that is something that happens. So a lot of times it becomes a legacy that way. It is something that's carried forward. Sometimes when you see some projects that might be on the surface look simple, but there's so much going on in the background, you might want to ask the scout to kind of develop a book or some kind of thing that they can pass down within their own troop to do very similar project and have all that information right there. That could be a type of legacy. Of course, a project doesn't have to be, but it's nice when it is. That way you know that those things are going to be maintained and taken care of well into the future. And a big part of the project is getting approvals. Now it starts with the scout actually wanting that particular project. Then you have the person who's getting the project needs to have to kind of work with the scout and make sure that those approvals can be met. Then you have your scoutmaster that has to actually sign off on it to make sure that all the things are taken care of, and the troop committee has to really sign off on the project. Finally, there is a fifth signature, and we'll get into that, but that's with the district or the council people that make sure that everything's been covered. They might come back with some questions and things, but still, that is really the process, so you have to get approval. Now, as far as the projects themselves, there are really 5 big categories, and there's all kinds of different projects, and there's even a catch-all category that may or may not be, but that's something that you have to think about. There's a lot of different types of projects out there. One of the big ones is outdoor improvements. Now, this can be benches, bridges, any kind of things that are produced outdoors, whether it be racks for canoes or different kinds of there's a lot of things that can be done outdoors and kept outdoors that would be needed in a park or community center or these kinds of activities, but a lot of it is outdoor based. Now, in that could also be bird houses, because birds eat bugs, and what eats more bugs than birds is bats. Bat boxes. Throughout the United States, bats are needing a place, and a lot of scouts know when they're around a bat box, they don't have to worry about the mosquitoes because they're being consumed. That's the neat thing about an outdoor project. Environmental projects. This could be anything from a cleanup or a restoration of an area in a park that has been overlooked or damaged. There could be invasive trees that are encroaching in on the natural environment. There's a lot of different things that a scout can do to really change that. They can plant trees or shrubs or different kinds of flowers and plants, and you name it. There's a lot of ways to get those things back in order for that environment. Now, that also includes an environment where the education of the general public, say for instance different kinds of waste products for recycling, could actually be part of an environmental effort. It could also be things where you're putting up signage to help people understand not to damage the natural woods or different things on a trail. So these could be things that are just trying to help out. They could also be things like in Florida, we have these bridges, and people love to fish off those bridges, but they don't. When their line gets snagged, they leave the line behind. That's a problem. That line needs to be taken out and thrown away. So there has to be a way to put it away, and somebody that takes care of the stuff that's been left behind. So these are great projects. Community outreach. This is something where the scout could actually come up with welcome bags for the children's hospital. They could come up with different things that would help people that are struggling, foster care children who don't have a container to put their belongings in. That has been a big project. A lot of places need that, and that's a huge thing. But having that there, helping them get through adversity, could be simple things like making little bears for the police department to give children that are part of a bad situation, and that little teddy bear will help that child kind of compensate a little bit for their traumatic situation they're in. So having those little teddy bears in this police car is a great idea. You could also create a lending library or a leave one take one food pantry or different things like that. There's a lot of those kinds of projects out there. Faith-based projects. Now, faith-based projects. This is something that is very scout oriented. We do this. These are now. this is the neat thing. If you have for instance, a church that has a bunch of pavers that have gone all wonky because of trees, have grown underneath the pavers and made it uneven, that is an excellent project to take that dangerous paver issue and make sure that it's nice and level. So that's an awesome project. Or working on a prayer garden. That is a wonderful thing. Or a center. There was a mosque here in Orlando that actually had an area where young people could gather during services, and that was a wonderful area. They actually built it up with a nice bench and had the area leveled and cleaned so that it was you could do activities. It was a very good project. Historical and educational. This is another category where the Scout can really come up with a fantastic way to give back to their community. It is a fantastic way to do that. This could be as simple as the Scout actually leading a group to clean up a graveyard. Okay, we know several Scout projects where they cleaned the graveyard and the stones, the markers, and made sure that they were all brought up to as best a condition as you can, because a lot of these graveyards are hundreds of years old. So it is important that we recognize that, and it's very important to our history of America. There's these places that have been long forgotten or abused, or they've been graffitied or done bad things to them. These are things that you can set right and really preserve that history. That's the wonderful thing about that type of project. Another part of that would be something that is just helping out educationally. I had a project where the Scout actually ran a math day at their private school. And it wasn't just, adding two things together and getting a prize. It was very involved. It was extremely involved. So you can do these things to be educational and help out a private organization in your community. That's the neat thing about it. So these are ideas for projects. Hey, before we go any further, I want to make sure that you're invited to the Campfire Chat. Now, this is our live meeting we have each month on the first Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. This is a fantastic way to get involved with live chat, and we have special guests. We have all kinds of neat things that go on. So definitely check that out. I also want to thank all of the Patreon members of this channel. In addition to that, I also want to thank all of the channel members right here on this channel. They have a fantastic group of people on this channel. They get a lot of perks. They get a lot of little icons and all kinds of neat stuff. But definitely check that out. If you're interested in becoming a member, definitely hit the little join button. It'll tell you more information. That's a great way to make this channel even better. Make it a part of what you do. And I'm so proud of you. We're just gonna jump right back in. Where to find inspiration for a project. This is a huge subject. And in the past, and then I'll say it again, the best thing is not to have your heart set on a type of project or something that is critical that you want to do. The more important thing in all of this is finding somebody who's willing to receive your project. That's the most important part, is to make sure that you get somebody that qualifies, that wants your project. That's really the key. You go to that community center, you go to that faith leader, and you talk to them about what they need, not what you need. as the person looking for the project, you ask them what they need. they'll be glad. They've got a list of things that they just don't have the funding for. They just don't have the ability to do. They don't have enough people to do it. That's where you come in. That's the beauty of it. You can come in and fill that wish right off their list. And that makes a project. So definitely communicate with your recipient. That is the very first thing to get inspiration from. You have your heart set on building canoe racks, but their heart is set on building trails through their park. Okay, so this is where you can come up with a compromise. You might do both. That is something that has been done in the past. Another great resource is your own troop. Your troop has had many Eagle Scouts. Every one of their projects are kept with the troop's historian. This is a incredibly important resource for Life Scouts. They can go back in there and say, oh, here's all the contact information for that community center. Perfect. You can give them a call, set up a meeting, make sure that you go there, take your parents. That's what Scouts do. And talk to them about their wish list. That's an incredible resource. Your troop has this. All these Eagle projects. There could be a really old one in there that you like. And you can call them up and say, hey, do you need that repainted, refurbished, changed, moved? Do you need it taken out and replaced? What is on your list? This is something that's a great resource. Check with your troop. Another good one would be to look around your own neighborhood. Look around. See if there's a bike trail that needs to be cleaned up, or an area of your own community that's been littered and just there's stuff everywhere, or damage from storm damage. And because everybody's busy with their private properties, they don't have time for that storm damage. But it becomes unsafe. So there's a lot of different projects that you could do within your own little community. But like I said at the beginning, get somebody who wants your project. That's the hardest part. Find somebody who wants a project. Once you've done that, if they qualify, you've got it going. Now here's some pro tips. I know because I've reviewed hundreds of projects. Here's the first one. Start early. Did you know the day that you get your life rank, the very next hour from that, you could actually do your project? That's something. That is something. Because it says while you are a Life Scout. Doesn't say you have to wait 6 months, 2 years, it doesn't say that. But while you're a Life Scout, you have to do an Eagle Service project. Why not the next day? Don't wait. You will run out of time. That has happened over and over to many Life Scouts. Many, okay? So my first pro tip is don't wait. Time is very unforgiving. It passes quickly. This is inevitable, and young people, they may not comprehend that. Time is very important to keep track of. In fact, there's a video. Time. Don't procrastinate. Get it done. Next big tip is keep it in the proper scope of an Eagle Service project. It's wonderful to think that you're going to divert a river. Okay, something that's really out of your scope. But it would be, those are great things to think about, great things to aspire to. That's something. But try to keep it realistic. Keep it in the scope of an Eagle Service project. This is something that is very important. If it's outside your scope of ability, maybe, that's something you need to reconsider. So keep it simple. Keep it compliant to the person who's receiving this. That's the important part. Don't go overboard. Don't go above and beyond what they want. Okay? All they wanted was a nice trail. Okay? They didn't need, a scooter range or something. Okay? They didn't need that. Okay? So keep within the scope of the project. One of the big things that Scouts need to be reminded, okay, us adult leaders need to remind Life Scouts that it's an Eagle service project. So they need to keep track of their hours. This is so important. And there's a lot of things that are behind the scenes that need to be tracked. And there's a lot of Scouts that think that, well, if I work a service project, I can't use it for something else. No. You can do service project. You can use those service hours that you do for the community. You can use that for your community service hours for school. So there's a lot of things like that, but it has to be a service project where the scout, the Life Scout, the Eagle candidate has to give leadership to everyone that works on that project. All the adults, all the youth, they have to be there. They are the representative of that project. And Life Scout should always think about why. Why is this project? What is it for? And are they fulfilling that need? That's a huge thing. If it's just a path off to a brick wall and doesn't do anything, that's not very much of a project. That's more make work. So make sure that the why is always being answered. Eagle projects are an awesome, awesome thing. It's always great to think back on whatever Eagle project you did as an Eagle Scout. What was your Eagle Scout project? I can tell you mine, but that's another video. But it's always important to think about it. That is something that is critical to your legacy in scouting. If you're going for your Eagle, your project is very important. And we as Scout leaders need to facilitate and make sure that we mentor and help the Scout. That is really important. In fact, I did a mentor series about Eagle Scout mentors. It's a 4-part series with the 3 phases all covered. In fact, there's the one about the project that we've been talking about today. That video was done many years ago. It was a good video. Some of that data might have changed a little, but most of it is just fine. And it's really meant for mentors. It's not really meant for the Scout. But it talks about the project in more detail. It would be great if I could get you to submit in the comments what you did for an Eagle project, if you're an Eagle Scout, or a really cool project you worked on. Those are really interesting, and a lot of people would like to know about it. This is a subject that comes up quite often. How do I do an Eagle project? It can be overwhelming for a youth, a teenager, to think about that. That can really be amazing, and it's important that we make them significant. And remember the pro tips. Remember all the different things, all the things in this guide. They're meant to help Scout leaders like you have and help great projects out there. Service projects are not just for Eagle rank, okay? A lot of troops and packs do service projects. So do crews, and so do Sea Scouts. There's service projects everywhere, and they don't have to be just for rank advancement. They could be just to give back to the community. And a lot of this information is appropriate for that. So definitely think about that. We do a lot for our scouts, and we want to leave a legacy, especially with our service projects. This is something that we can do. And as a scout leader, you're doing that. You're leaving that legacy. You're kind of in a service project right now. You're part of this, and I am so glad and so proud of you. Please keep up that good, hard work. And if you'd like more information about mentoring, I'm going to put the playlist right up there. So definitely check out the playlist. Until next time, I'll see you on the trail.